Hi everyone, welcome back to the Brick and Mortar podcast by BCI, where we spotlight the most intriguing businesses in commercial real estate. I'm your host, Shanice. Today we're diving into the niche world of gas stations with our special guest, Marc Gomes. Marc is a veteran in petroleum marketing and commercial real estate. He drove the Mobil brand's growth in Southeast Florida during his 22 years at ExxonMobil and later as VP of Franchise Finance at CitiCapital. He's also the chairman of the Scholarship Committee of the Florida Petroleum Marketing Association. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Hi, Marc. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into the commercial real estate industry, specifically the gas station industry?
Okay, well, I started my career with Mobil many, many moons ago. I started in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Nantucket in the Vineyard, and I was fortunate enough to get promoted and sent down to Palm Beach back in the mid-'80s. And during that time, I worked for Mobil 22 years, and I was very involved with the growth of the brand explosion here in Southeast Florida, particularly from Fort Lauderdale up to Vero Beach and Fort Pierce. After my career with Mobil, Exxon came over, took over. They purged a lot of the Mobil people. I was fortunate enough to get hired by CitiCapital, which is the commercial arm of Citibank. And my position was vice president of retail for the Southeast United States. So any approvals for mortgages on gas station properties, be it 1 or 1,000, I was responsible for in 5 states here. Worked there a couple of years, and then I decided to go out on my own. I had a good basis because of my Mobil experience, running gas stations and running their marketing operations. And then I had another chance to grow in terms of the financial aspects of the banking business and how it relates back to the petroleum-related product. And I started my website, which is real simple, www.isellgasstations.com. I don't know, maybe 18, 19 years ago. And we're still here trying to learn and process and network and do deals all day, every day.
Nice.
So that's the quick cliff notes. So
Yeah.
I like to tell people like you, I inhale diesel and I exhale high test, but you can't live on gas stations alone. I mean, I've sold warehouses, banks, C-stores, car washes. I'm kind of like a ninja. You call me and I'll try to sell it for you.
Yeah. So you've had a very long tenure in the gas station industry. How have you seen the gas station market evolve over the past few years?
Well, first of all, my career spans 40 years.
Mhm.
So obviously there's been, technology is one of the things that helped advance the petroleum marketing. Obviously, when we start getting into computers, when you start getting into, I was involved when Mobil was the first company to put credit card readers in the pumps. So that shows a little bit about how we've evolved from before you didn't have it. And now if you go to a gas station that doesn't have it, it's like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
The station's platforms have gotten larger. Uh, their physical facilities, i.e., truck stops, the Wawas of the world, the Quick Trips of the world, uh, their footprint gets bigger. They need more property. You need to have a basis of a store. And one of the things that I think you really see is how the quick serve restaurant and food service piece has added that alternate profit center that helps make these locations profitable. Everybody wants to get a coffee, uh, a pastry. They're higher margin items, and obviously they help make that bottom line look a little bit brighter. But it's grown. It's grown exponentially. Uh, like I said before, you'd have these little postage 1 or 2 pumps, and now you need to have bigger, what we call front court, which is the front where you see the canopy and the pumps. The back court is the store, and but it still goes down to the ABCs of merchandising and retailing. You have to be bright. You have to be clean. You have to have access to traffic in and out. It's got to flow. And I mean, that has not basically changed over the years. It's still going to be like that. What has changed is, I mean, back then you could buy a gas station for maybe with property 200,000 or 300,000. Now it's hard to find them for that kind of money. And I'm based here in South Florida, and in the market, some of these prices that I've seen that people have paid for, not unfortunately some of my deals, but they are getting a lot of money for some of these sites. A lot of money for some of these sites.
Yeah. What are some unique challenges associated with selling gas stations compared to other types of commercial properties?
Well, number one is environmental. You have to have a clear, concise understanding of the dynamics of the record keeping, the books. If there is some kind of contamination, you have to be able to address it. Nobody wants to step into a property that could be quote unquote tainted. I think that's one of the most blaring elements when someone's looking to buy a gas station. If I have to call an environmental engineer, it gets to be very touchy, or an environmental. Well, let me rephrase that. Depending on why I have to call them, it helps me to see whether or not this is going to go to the finish line, because sometimes it gets complicated, and you don't have enough time for me to tell you some of the YouTube type moments that I've had trying to get some of these things done, where there was 3 different environmental companies involved. One person had it when it was spilled. The other person bought it, didn't know it was a spill, and then we got a bank that took it over. But at the end of the day, it's just like any other type of real estate with a little bit of nuances. The property, hey, if it's 2 acres, I could go and do research and see what 2 acres are going for in that particular area, so I have an idea as to per square what that should be. Then you have to add the physical plant, the dispensers, the canopy, the underground tanks, the inside of the store itself, and then you have to add business component. Is it making money? What are the multiples? And then I can get it very complicated. It gets into fuel supply agreements. Is it a good agreement? How long is the agreement? Can you live with the agreement? And you'll find that, in Florida, we have probably 6 or 7 fuel distributors that probably own 80% of the gas stations in the state. So these are some big boys, and they carry a lot of clout and a lot of money. And when they buy a station, they want to make sure that they can supply it with their fuel, because that's how they generate their money. And trust me, some of these guys are so big that when I go out with them, I don't try to pay lunch and show off. I'm like, here's the bill. You could take care of it. Thank you.
Yeah. So you mentioned being instrumental in the growth of the Mobil brand in South Florida. Can you share some strategies that contributed to this success?
Absolutely. Excuse me. Keep in mind, when I came to Florida in the early 80s, we were nowhere near the explosive growth that we're seeing here in Florida now. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that my business takes me all over the state, and it's eye-opening and jaw-dropping to see places that were dirt and trees. Then you see they're mulching trees and they're putting up multifamily developments. They're putting up shopping centers, etc. Going back to the 80s, Mobil had a small footprint here, but we had a pretty aggressive real estate department that had a clear vision as to where the population growth was going to be. And their vision wasn't 1 or 2 years, it was 10 or 20 years. To the point when I came down, one of the stations I was responsible for, and now it's in a booming area, but I was like, why did we build a gas station here? There's nobody around, it's nothing but woods. That was part of the element. And I think the most critical element was to recruit a team of franchisees that shared our vision, that shared our desire to grow both as a business and as a brand. So once I got somebody, I put them into a gas station and they performed to help me make my numbers, i.e., got to sell gasoline. That was obviously our number one sales goal. Mystery shopper, very, very important element because you got 3 gas stations on 3 corners. How do I get Shanice to come to mine? You have to have that mindset. They can go into anyone they want. If they're all priced the same price, how do I differentiate my brand from them? How? By putting powerful individuals into those gas stations as tenants that, like I said, shared our vision, that wanted to grow, and more importantly, listen to me because I'm bringing good things to the table, and all I'm trying to do is make everybody happy. You make money, we'll make money. Sometimes I had to bring, sour things to the table, but I want to be able to walk away and still be a decent human being. Don't get mad at me because I worked for the largest corporation in the world at that time, and sometimes things don't work out the way we'd like them to. But I always wanted to foster that environment where, it's always a helping and nurturing environment as opposed to, oh, here he comes again. I wanted people to be happy to see me because I was bringing something, some excitement, some sizzle, and hopefully some ideas are going to foster more improvement to their business, bottom line, and their families. Because at the end of the day, we all bust our butt for our families. It's not for us. It's just to make it better for them.
True. How do you approach valuing a gas station, and what factors most influence its market value?
You want me to be brutally honest?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks what they have is worth more than what they have.
Mm-hmm.
They always think it's worth a lot more. And the market will always talk to you. The market dictates where you should be. My valuations have to do with looking at profit and loss statements, looking at trends in terms of profitability, looking at the competitive natures of some of the stations that are out there, and trying to put a number together that's going to be a win-win for both the seller and the buyer, because it's not an easy task.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest thing I have to do is to make a valuation on a gas station and convince the seller this is the route we have to go. A lot of times, what might happen is they'll dictate to me, I need to get 5 million or else I'm not going to sell it. And I'll just tell them, listen, if you're going to have that kind of an attitude, and I don't think it's worth 5 million or 4 million, whatever that number is, maybe I need to come back in 6 months. And I've done this after you've worked it a little bit more and you the bottom line a little bit more bright, for lack of another marketing term. I did this one time. Can I tell a story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, please.
Little old lady. I don't know, you're old enough to remember Tweety Bird, but Tweety Bird had a grandmother that had these glasses, a little bun on her head. This was my client. She had a place down in Pompano with service bays. Now, when you start talking service bays as opposed to a gas station with a convenience store and car wash, it's a whole different animal.
Hmm.
Accounting wise, people get into the base service business because they want to hide money. Bottom line, if somebody comes in for a tire plug and you get $20, they're not going to give you an invoice. You're going to put it in their pocket. Long story short, the lady's name was Lucia. With the accent from Romania, she says, "Well, we need to get 2.2 million." And I was like, "It ain't going to happen." She goes, "Why?" I said, "You got 5 people out here working in your repair bays, and you're only showing me that you're doing some stupid number like $12,000 a month." This was May. So I said, "Lucia, here's what I'm going to do. Put everything on the books from May until the end of the year. Call me at the end of January, and I'll come in and we'll talk." She calls me at the end of January. "Come in, we need to see you." "By the grace of God, our business is up 18% since you were here last time. Now we can talk." Those are the kind of things that you have to do, to be successful in this business. Sometimes you have to walk away from deals because if it doesn't make business sense, it's best. Listen, I consider myself one of the better salesmen and marketers around. I've been selling stuff for my whole life, starting back when I was an ice cream man and a paper boy. But you can't sell something if it doesn't make sense. You just can't.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
You are. That makes a lot
Okay,
of sense.
good, good, good.
What do you think the gas station market will look like in the next couple of years, especially with the rise of electric vehicles and renewable energy sources?
Okay, this is a question that I get asked a lot
Hmm.
because people are making $1 million investments on gas stations and they want to make sure that there's still going to be a petroleum related product for the gas stations. If you read between the lines right now, and I read between the lines a lot, Shanice, if you notice, the focus hasn't been on electric vehicles like it was like just past COVID. Ford is starting to slow down on their production of vehicles. If you take Tesla out of the mix, if you take Tesla out of the mix, I don't know what that percentage is, but it's less than 1% of the cars in the United States. Until we get an infrastructure where if I wanted to drive back to my home in Connecticut from Palm Beach, and I don't have to worry about if I get stuck in South Carolina because there's no places to charge my car, it's not going to happen. You can't get the lithium batteries materials. There's limited supply of those. To replace the batteries, from what I understand, is I've never been in a Tesla, honestly. I've never been in a Tesla or an electric vehicle other than maybe a van at the airport going back and forth to a rent-a-car place. But I don't think that my kids, who are one in the teens and one is in her early 20s, going to see the electric cars come into fruition. I really don't see us being like the Jetsons where everybody's driving electric cars. It's just not going to happen. And when you take it from a political standpoint, I don't speak politics, but when you look at uh, uh, um, some of the influencers, the ExxonMobils of the world, the Shells, the BPs, they all have lobbyists up in DC that are saying, we want to lean towards the shale and the drilling, and we don't want to talk about alternative electric vehicles. I don't see it personally. I don't see it coming for the next 30 or 40 years unless something drastic happens.
Yeah, that's good insight. So, the gas station industry is seeing consolidation with bigger companies buying out smaller ones. What impact does this have on the market and on individual investors?
Well, like I said, probably 4 or 5 of the biggest distributors here uh, own 85% of the gas stations.
Hmm.
With the consolidation, as an example, it was just announced yesterday that Phillips Conoco is buying Marathon. The big gobble them up, the smaller ones. And what happens in instances like that, in my particular case, some of the stations that they're acquiring don't fit their long-term business model. They might be smaller or they're on an off-road, and then they obviously try to sell those and lessen the impact of the acquisition costs. But it's going to continue to grow like that. And as you look in our particular market, I'll use Wawa as an example. You know, Wawa doesn't own their real estate. They're all developer driven. And the developers will do a deal, sign a long-term lease with Wawa, and then they go to Wall Street and they try to sell the station as a triple net investment. And they usually, right now, I'm seeing that if you can get a 6.5% return on that money, you're doing pretty good. It's usually closer to 4 and 5 right now, because obviously the cost of money right now is high,
Hmm.
both commercial and in residential real estate. But
Yeah,
people are still taking loans out. Back when
true.
I was trying to buy a house back in the '80s, it was almost 12% interest. You know, so everything ebbs and flows, and there's always a cycle. There's always a cycle. But the big keep getting bigger, and the little ones try to survive.
Yeah. What was the most challenging deal of your career, and how did you overcome that challenge?
You don't have enough time. You don't have enough time. I can tell you, listen, honest to God, if there was a reality TV show that used your buddy as a talent, you'd be shaking your head, telling your significant other, get the butter ready for the popcorn. There's going to be some funny stuff on TV, and it's all real. I've had deals, as an example, working with a bank on a foreclosed gas station where we had multiple municipal liens because the station was closed, and they kept putting the notices inside the mailbox, and the fines just kept doubling, to the point where it was like $250,000 because we didn't have a handicap sign and because we didn't have painting for the parking lot. I was involved with the guys that are buying it. The bank didn't want to get involved. I had to go to the city. We extended that contract 7 times
Oh my
because my
god.
guys were like, we want it. It's not our fault. They have to handle it. Long story short, Sherlock Gomes got involved and we sold it. This is
Nice.
this is one in particular I remember because it was very, very challenging. And keep in mind, as you know, in the commercial, in any real estate, we're the last ones to get paid. We got to close it, or else we put all that work in. And it's a lot of work to put together the offering memorandum, the flyers, to travel to the sites, to do your homework, to ride the trade area, and be able to talk intelligently to the buyers is the most important thing. I can't talk to a buyer and they say, well, how come you didn't tell me that there's a brand new 7-Eleven around the corner? I didn't know. Well, you're supposed to know. Those are the kind of things. Listen, a dull knife can't cut anything, but a sharp knife can. And
Hmm.
I just try to stay sharp.
That's good. What do you enjoy most about working in this industry, the gas station industry?
Well, I've been fortunate that I've got several long-term clients that call me whenever there's an opportunity. Some of these folks I put in business back when I worked for Mobil, uh, and we've got a 20, 30-year relationship. So that's been very helpful. I love that, being able to help people. Uh, and I'll use you as an example. Uh, I am the heavy proponent of networking because you never know where the next lead is going to come from. You see somebody, you say hello. In my particular instance, I had my I Sell Gas Station shirt on. I met 3 people that I'm going to probably do business with at that Marlins game that we went to. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that's thrilling. I tell the stories. It's a small world. It's a big planet, but it's a small world. And those are the things that I thrive on. Or when I get the call that says, "I need your help. Can you help me?" And I guess I'm just an excitable guy. I can't help it.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What advice would you give to someone entering the gas station real estate market, either as a broker or an investor?
You got to do your homework. Talk to
Mm-hmm.
people like me that can help you. Something. Honestly, Shanice, I probably do more free consulting. Hey, Gomesy, what do you think about this? What should I do with this site? And I'll tell them, I'll give you 10 minutes worth of free consulting, but after 10 minutes, I'm turning the clock on. You got to do your homework. You have to have knowledge of the product. I don't care if it's a warehouse, uh, a shopping center, a gas station, a car wash. You can't go in blind, because if you go in blind, somebody's going to see that you can't see, and they're going to call you out on it. You have to be able to get it over the finish line. You have to have the wherewithal, to get it done. The first piece of commercial property I ever sold was a dental lab. Shanice, what do I know about dental lab? I know to floss and brush my teeth. But I was on YouTube. I was on, dentallab.com. When these guys called me up and said they wanted to meet with me, I said, well, give me at least, 3 or 4 days. And I just went through 3 days worth of research, knowledge, so I could discuss, fillings, you know, where does your profit come from? How do you go about getting new dentists to provide work for you? And like anything else, you got to do your homework. If you go in, half, I can't say half but I'll say half but. If you go in and you're not prepared, you'll get sliced and diced pretty easily. And I make sure that I'm ready when I come through. I'm ready. I try to be, anyways.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mark. It was truly a pleasure having you. How can our listeners get in touch with you or learn more about your services?
I'm going to say this a couple of times. My website, www.isellgasstations with an S.com. My my phone number and contact information is all there. I'll give you my office number, my cell number. I am easily accessed. I had a guy call me up and said, I had tickets for the Heat game, but I couldn't get in touch with you. I was like, you're a liar. I got 3 emails, 3 phones, iPad. You can get in touch with me any way you want. 561-968-6068 is my office.